came back to my business, I looked what everyone else was doing locally, and I realised that they weren't doing that. I asked them to apply the Toby test. And the Toby test is, what I would instead do is say, we're going to break your video down into 3 parts. The biggest mistake that I see time and time again at the start of videos is the first line, 70% of the customer's decision is made before they meet you, because they're doing so much research. Number 2, 82% of all internet traffic is people watching videos. You need to film a video, you need to do it today, you need to do it tomorrow, and then you need to do it the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that.
Welcome back, everyone. Normally, I introduce the guest, but recently I found that I'm quite shit at it. So, I'm gonna let Toby this time introduce himself.
Thank you, Luca. I would have liked to have heard your shit introduction, but I'm willing to give myself my own shit introduction. My name is Toby Martin, and well, we'll find out more about me, but I live locally here, close to Bath. It's what I always say, close to Bath means I live in Trowbridge. That's what anyone who lives in Trowbridge with any self-dignity says, I live close to Bath. And I have a young family, and I have a professional career working in marketing, training, social media content, across a very diverse work that I get to do, so I'm a very lucky man.
I want to see if you would say the same thing but in a different way. Let me ask you this question. If I was to put a random stranger in front of you, you've never met and they've never met you, what introduction would you give to them?
I would say to them that am I talking professionally or personally? However. Yeah. I'd say I'm Toby, and I am a dad. I am extremely tired, because one of them's 3 years old, and the other's 8 years old, and it doesn't get a lot better between 3 and 8. I love cricket, I'm obsessed with guitars, I'm obsessed with stand-up comedy, I love movies, I probably wouldn't even mention my work, to be honest with you.
What about professionally?
Oh, professionally, you want to know about that as well. Professionally, I'm a very lucky man, because I work for myself, and I have done for the last 18 months or so. And I get to do what I love, which is I get to help people, I get to help them get better at things, so I get to help them learn and improve and grow in confidence, help them learn new skills, which helps them in their careers or helps their businesses to grow and make more money. So I'm, again, a very lucky man.
Very lucky indeed. I'm hoping to sort of be in the same position at some point where I get to work for myself and have my own thing. But until then, let me ask you another question. So, what sort of people are you helping? Is it like a sort of like niche, sort of like line of business you're helping, a sector? What sort of...
I work predominantly in the property sector, which is because that was my previous career. So that is my industry. Realistically, and one of my ambitions is that the things that I do and the things that I help people with could be applied to any sector. So one day I'd love to spread my wings and fly off into other industries, because I love the variety. I love getting to meet new people and find out about new industries and new niches, because every single one of them can benefit from what I do, and it's very interesting applying that to new industries, and I've been able to do that a little bit. I'd love to do it more, but my home territory is the world of property.
Okay, so let's hone in onto that. So let's see, what exactly are you doing? What sort of marketing are you doing for these estate agencies?
Yeah, the main thing that I help them with is video content. In my professional career, working as a property professional, I grew my business by using video marketing a hell of a lot. It was something that I went off and learned about. I did a course, I came back to my business, I looked what everyone else was doing locally, and I realised that they weren't doing that. And when everyone's doing the same thing, if you can go off and do something different, then it gives you an opportunity to stand out in your local market. So that was what I did as a professional in my previous business, and now I've taken that to help other estate agencies, property businesses in other areas of the industry, to first of all get more confident on camera, because that's the main stumbling block, and then how to make great videos, how to get those videos in front of the right people, and turn it all into a repeatable process that doesn't require a massive marketing team to deliver.
You just mentioned people copying from each other, which makes them average.
Yes.
So you're saying most real estate agents are average. I would like to ask you, what exactly are they doing that makes them forgettable?
Yeah. I didn't say all real estate agents are average, you did. But I agree with you, luckily. It is an industry, it's a fascinating industry, regardless of what your viewers or you think about estate agents, letting agents, the morals or the ethics of it. As an industry, it is fascinating and a very interesting place to do what I do, which is to, as we've established, the world of marketing, but also the world of training, because I help people make videos, but I also do a lot of training to, so that people learn these skills themselves. Estate agency is an industry, and real estate as a whole, which does not want to help itself. It's extremely set in its ways. I'm talking generally, there are of course exceptions, but the exceptions are the 1%. The majority of the industry works the same way that it did 30, 40 years ago, both in terms of how transactions work, but also how businesses promote themselves and the things that they try to do to grow business and find new clients. It's a very slow-moving industry in terms of progress and adopting new technologies, new marketing skills, new platforms. And why you said that based on what I said, that I'd asserted that estate agents or real estate professionals are average. And in my world, in the world of marketing and content, social media, that is absolutely true. And the first thing that I do when I work with a new company is I get them to go and look at their local competitors, the other, let's say, estate agencies in their town or in their city. Go onto their Instagram feeds, their Facebook pages, their websites, TikTok if they've got it. Every single channel, go and look at it. And I ask them to apply the Toby test. And the Toby test is their feed regularly updated? That's quite often, I did this yesterday with a room full of people, and someone, the first person to go and find their competitor's Instagram page, said they hadn't been updated since September 2024. So the first one can be a stumbling block. Then the second test is, are their faces, are people, human beings, actually present in their marketing? Which sounds obvious, because as people, we connect best with other people. We relate most to other people. We trust other people. But again, the majority of companies fall short there. And we have generic marketing with faceless advertisements, Canva templates, generic property photos. Could be literally, you could take the logo off and put a different logo on. It could be any company. And then the third test is the majority of their content delivering helpful, genuine, honest consumer advice to your audience? Or are you just doing self-promotion? Are you just, call us if you want to sell your house. Here's a property we're trying to sell. And again, the majority of social media feeds, websites, marketing is just, here's a new property. Here's what we do. Here's our services. Here's a Google review. You're not doing the human-to-human element that should be present in marketing, speaking to people as a person, making human connections. So as an industry, there is an awful lot of average marketing, because the majority of real estate marketing isn't done by marketers. It's done by busy business owners, busy estate agents, busy property people who are trying to fit it in between their other, quote-unquote, more important work. So it is a very average industry when it comes to that aspect of their business, yeah.
So the Toby test looks at updated, tell me again, so what's the Toby test?
Do they post regularly and consistently? Ideally daily, but at least regularly. Are there human faces present in their marketing, be it either on photos or on video? And do they regularly ideally it should be at least 60% of their posts, their marketing materials, their social media posts should be what we call long-form trust-building content. Not short form. Short form is when you're trying to sell something. I want you to do something now. Long-form marketing is, I'm building something here in case you become my customer in 6 months' time. It's trust building. It's delivering advice, giving guidance, giving value to your audience. It's not saying buy this thing. It's saying here's some helpful advice that you might thank me for further down the line, because that builds trust. So the three things are consistency, humans, and building trust.
Very interesting, and I think the human element of it, the fact that some Instagram accounts, well, not some, a lot of Instagram accounts are so faceless, it's a big red flag. If you look at what YouTube is trying to do, or has sort of like said they want to do, or are doing as of now, monetization. They're not going to monetize any sort of channel that doesn't have a face on it. So if you're the sort of YouTuber who creates content via artificial intelligence, well, you're going to be in a very unlucky situation.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And you know, you mentioned AI, and that only makes this more important, because with the proliferation of AI, that is having the effect, and I'm a big AI user, I love AI, I'm not knocking AI, but the way that people use it in their marketing is lowering standards. It's making a lot of marketing more generic. So the acid test is, could you take an Instagram post that you've done and put it on another agency, another company or estate agency's Instagram feed? Would anyone know? Would anyone know that that was your post, that it didn't belong there? Is your own content distinctive? How is it you? And the best way of making it you is to put you in it.
And your advice that you are giving out on your channels, that's how I met you.
Yeah.
Well, that's not how I met you, but that's...
So it works!
I was helping a local business here in Bath called Flower Property.
Yeah.
And you said you know Jack.
I know
Flower.
Jack and Luke, yeah.
Yeah, they're very nice, they're very great. And I was filming some content with Luke, and we were meant to film content on the renter's rights. And he sends me a video, and he says, oh, we should just... There's this guy, Toby, and he's put out this video on how to film in the community, which we'll talk about later today, but he said, oh, look up his video, and it looks really cool. I was like, really, we can do this, and your whole video is like, here's some helpful content for if you are a business that wants to filming in the community works, and we tried it, and I'll be honest with you, the whole video looked absolutely incredible. I think that was... I absolutely love that. I edited it. I thought it was cool.
I saw it. It was really good. Yeah, and that's right. That's why you give people value, and the key is knowing how much to give away. And obviously, you do still want people to come to you. You want people to either see you or recommend you or talk about you or forward your posts on someone who it might be relevant to. So you give enough away to be helpful to people, to almost start to build up a debt. So they're in your debt. You know, you taught me how to make that video. You gave me that advice on your Instagram feed. You know, thank you. So that when you actually then come to meet people and potentially do business with them, so in the world of a estate agency, that looks like turning up at someone's house to do a valuation of it, that they already know you, they already feel like they've learned from you, and they already feel some gratitude towards you for delivering them some great advice via your marketing. And if your marketing is doing that, then that's a big win, because you've already earned trust with the customer, which the majority of business relationships is based on. You've earned trust, and you've also built familiarity. So they feel like they can trust you, feel like they know you. And if you're pitching for someone for business with someone, and you've done that, and someone else is pitching for business, and they have a clean page, they've done neither of those things, no trust, no familiarity, then you can see you have a clear head start. So that is all that I believe marketing should be doing. It should be building trust and familiarity.
And if you look at, because you mentioned Daniel Priestley off camera,
Yeah.
I think it was Daniel Priestley, might have been someone else, but let's just say Daniel Priestley for the sake of it. I think he mentioned something along the lines of, if you want to build that relationship, you build it across what he called the 7-4-11 rule.
Yeah.
7 interactions across 4 platforms for 11 hours. And that's how you create that familiarity.
Yeah.
And that trust.
Yeah.
Or at least the beginning of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really a fascinating point. So 7-11-4 came out of a piece of Google research initially, and is widely used by, like Daniel Priestley, anyone who talks about personal branding and building a personal platform. Daniel Priestley talks about being a key person of influence. And the 7-11-4 if anyone is unfamiliar with that, it says that if your customer has consumed 7 hours of your content across 11 touch points, touch point being a moment, so that might be your social media, they speak to you on the phone, they go on your website, they go back to your social media, and that's across 4 unique locations. So it might be your website, social media, speaking to you in person. It doesn't all have to be digital. One might be seeing your advert in a magazine or getting a word of mouth recommendation. But if you can hit that formula, then that customer feels ready to buy from you. They feel like they've built enough trust, they've built enough familiarity to now feel like they can go ahead and make that purchasing decision. And Google carried out another piece of research, and I always couple these two together, about consumer behaviour. And they talk about, so you might be familiar with the idea of a sales funnel. So broad at the top, narrow at the bottom, all your potential customers go in the top of the funnel, something happens in the middle, and at the bottom your customers drop out. And in the middle, people might go off to different businesses, they might decide not to sell, all sorts of things might happen. And Google called the middle of the funnel, that period of time, the messy middle, which I love that phrase, because I use this analogy when I'm doing my training and workshops on marketing. I say, right, recently my air fryer broke. And I say this is a massive disaster in my house because I've got kids and you can't feed kids if you don't have an air fryer because it's the best way to cook chicken nuggets. And so I needed to buy a new air fryer and it was urgent. So what do you think I did? Did you think that I walked into my local Currys and found a salesperson and said to him, sell me your finest air fryer? Well, no, I didn't do that because I don't know if he is being incentivized to push a certain deal, if they got a bunch of Kenwood air fryers out the back that are not selling, so they need to get rid of those ones. I don't know if I can trust him. So instead of that, what I did instead was I did a hell of a lot of research. I found blogs about air fryers. I watched YouTube videos of people unboxing air fryers. I watched TikToks of people talking about the latest air fryer deals. I found a martinsmoneysavingexpert.com forum about air fryers. I did all of this research myself. And I walked into Currys already knowing which was the best one for me. And that's the messy middle period. It's when your customer is going, I don't want to wait for a sales pitch. I want to go and make an informed decision. So I'm going to go on Instagram, go on Facebook, go on this company's website. I'm going to start forming opinions about them so that by the time I meet them, I'm clued up and I'm not just being sold to. And that it's called the messy middle because people go here, there and everywhere looking for information and evidence on which to base their opinions. There was a piece of research in the US, but I'm sure it applies to us, that said that by the time you meet a customer for the sales appointment, they are, on average, up to 70% of the way through their decision already. 70% decision made. So they're not just waiting for you to turn up and sell them something, they're forming opinions, they're making judgments, they're making decisions before you even meet them. So coming back to social media and content, if you're not doing that, you're missing out on the opportunity to feed into that decision before you've met them. You're missing out on the opportunity to give them what they're looking for. They're looking for information, give it to them. Give them that information that they need to come to the decision that you want them to make.
Makes sense, because then you create the content to help them with the messy middle and then they come to you.
Exactly.
Do you think, because obviously average and they all copy from each other, do you think they're aware that they are being average or are they unaware?
Oh, that's a lovely question. And I think that there is some awareness there. There has to be. Especially, as I say, in my industry, where so many businesses look so similar as online. And the reason why I think that that is accepted and not challenged more often is that approach to social media, that approach to marketing, when you're a very busy person, like a lot of these people are, a lot of these companies that I deal with are smaller companies, independent companies, maybe even self-employed agents like Jack and Luke, whose marketing is much better than what I'm describing. You look for shortcuts. And in some areas of your business, you look to do the minimum. And so when everybody else is doing one thing, that gives you an excuse. You go, well, I can do that as well. And it won't do me any harm. and it makes you short-sighted to the opportunity of going in the opposite direction as everybody else. But that kind of following the herd, it gives you permission. You go and look at what everyone else is doing, and you're saying, right, if I do that, I'll be fine. Because that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing, that's what they're doing, that's what they're doing. So if all of those are doing it, I can do it too. So it almost excuses the oversight, because you know that it won't do any harm. It won't do any harm to follow the crowd.
I guess you're right, and I guess that there's that standard they sort of like believe in, and as long as they can reach that very low standard,
yeah,
which might be fine for them, then that sort of like puts them in a position where they think I've done enough.
Yeah.
Very interesting, because then if you look at like engagement, things like likes, comments, and stuff like that. If you're just starting out, you're not gonna get as many likes and get as many interactions on your posts than someone who has been doing the same sort of like low effort marketing, short form content, posts, videos. You wouldn't get the same likes because obviously time.
Yeah. There's a quote that I love to use in my training from one of the real masters of modern marketing, a guy called Seth Godin, who said words to the effect of in a crowded market, and the industry I work in is a really crowded market. If you live in Bath or any similar town or city, number of estate agents, number of letting agents, there's masses of them. They multiply like rabbits. But in a crowded market, he says, blending in is the same as being invisible. And it is extraordinary, and I'm sure it applies to other industries as well. I'm sure there are other industries that are similar to this, but certainly in the one that I'm most familiar with, it is extraordinary how many businesses proactively spend their time and money on deliberately trying to look the same as everybody else. And I think that it comes back to that thing about, well, being different can sometimes feel like a bit of a threat. It feels like a risk. But if everyone else looks like that and I look different, it could be risky. People might not like it. And it leads people to miss out on the opportunities that come with being distinctive, differentiating yourself from other businesses.
And if you look at small businesses, they've already made the risk of starting, in this case, their own estate agencies. You've already done that, so why not make another risk, if you want to call it, if you really want to call it a risk? Well, we don't want to take another step in marketing, but we'll talk about it in a second, because a very interesting thing you've just touched upon about blending in and becoming invisible. Similar thing, I read a book called Traction, and it was saying all about how, yes, if you've got a product or a service, 50% of your time should be spent doing that, but also 50% of your time should be spent doing marketing, however that looks like. If it's videos, posts on Instagram, YouTube videos, anything you define as marketing. And I thought that was interesting. And that sort of like goes to the next point, or the next question, which is, how would you help this sort of, what would you say, why is something they could do to become more engaging?
Specifically thinking about marketing video content, and I should say that there's obviously other forms of marketing, but I emphasise the importance of video so much because it is the most effective medium on social media. It is preferred and promoted by the various platforms and algorithms, and it's the most effective form of digital communication. People see you, they hear you, far more effective at building trust. So in terms of being more distinctive, there's a wonderful business locally here in Bath that would be a great example of how you can be distinctive. Good Day Cafe. Now, if you don't know them, go and look them up on Instagram. But what they could do, they make lovely cakes. I've not been paid to say that, but I'd love to be, because they make great cakes. And so they could do a lot of social media content, which is, here are today's cakes. Aren't they delicious? Here are our current promotions. Here are our offers. Instead, and their Instagram is, I'm pretty sure, kind of globally successful by now, at least nationally. They constantly have posts that go off the charts with engagement. And their approach is based on humour. They have an awful lot of funny stuff on their feed. and they certainly kind of capture current trends, but almost every video has people in it. It has their own team. They're not hired professionals. They're not marketers. They're not actors. It's their own front of house team. They're bakers. They're waiters and waitresses. Normal people. And there's a really, actually, just to link that to, if you compared them with Curry's current advertising. I've mentioned Curry's already. I have no vested interest in Curry's, but Curry's had a big sort of rejuvenation of their marketing strategy probably a couple of years ago now, which led to them making the decision to put a lot more humour in their marketing and to platform a lot of their branches' employees in their in their TV advertising as well as their social media advertising as well. So you've got normal people performing humorous skits and getting a lot of laughter and humour and that is great for engagement. So I'd start with those two things. You want humans being as human as possible. You don't have to be actors or models or whatever it might be, displaying human traits. I always say to the people who I work with, don't be afraid of messing up on camera because your bloopers will be your most successful posts that you ever put out there. So they are gold dust, save those. So yeah, be human on camera, make mistakes, and use humour. Humour is one of the most underrated business skills because it engages people, it draws people in, it makes people share your content. So those are two great places to start.
Absolutely, and I'll definitely look them up because I know about them, but I didn't even know that
they make great cakes.
And they make great cakes. Good to know. Maybe I'll send them a video of this.
Yeah.
Tag Toby Martin. This guy for 1 hour and a half talked about you. And just no comment or nothing.
He came on my podcast. And clearly all he wanted to do from the start was to get free cakes.
That's going to be cut off.
He was a terrible guest.
You've already sort of like alluded to this, but it would be interesting to have a direct answer to it. So, people copying everyone. At what point did you realize in the real estate industry, and maybe everywhere else as well, because it sort of applies, where did you realize that the industry had fallen into the habit of sounding and looking the same?
Only when I started doing something about it myself. So I didn't have a moment when I went, aha, everyone is rubbish, I'm going to go and do something different. It was only when I started getting on camera myself, putting out my first very crummy videos and putting them out on social media. And then the reaction that I got from those, which then made me stop and go, hang on, why does everyone like this so much? My social media before has never taken off, and now I'm getting people engaging with my posts a lot more. I'm also getting people who I know mentioning it to me and saying, I see you're doing a lot of videos now, that they're really good. So it was when I realised I was onto something that I then kind of stopped and went, but why? And then because at that point in time, I didn't necessarily consider myself to be a great marketer. I was a letting agent who was trying to improve the marketing of our business. And at that point, I almost kind of reverse engineered it and went, hang on, why is this working so well? Let me go and look at what everyone else is doing. Oh yeah, you don't see a single face on any of these Instagram feeds. You don't see any video content. You don't see anything helpful on anyone's social media. So it was really kind of only after the event. It wasn't a great master plan of my own, a great strategy. I kind of stumbled into it by going, I think I quite enjoy doing this. I think I'm going to give it a go. And then realising that it was actually very effective.
And what were the elements of the video that you put out that sort of made everyone say to you, oh, that's a cool video, or hey, the engagement on it looks good?
Well, I mean, my early videos were really basic. So it was no great kind of camera tricks or editing or any kind of great structure to the video. I think it's become more difficult as more people start getting onto camera to stand out online. So now, I make my videos in an entirely different way, but back then, it was really just by being, like I said, a little bit, I've always tried to get a bit of humour into my videos, but also being very, almost fallible, human, prepared to not be perfect. I didn't overthink my videos. I filmed them back then in one take, cut the start and end off and posted it. And that was good enough then. I say then as though this was kind of like the golden age of cinema in like 1904, but this was probably about 7-8 years ago. So there was like virtually no online video content at that point. And so the bar was low. You didn't have to do much to impress people. These days you do have to try a little bit harder, but what I would still say is even if all you do is that kind of simple speaking to camera video, even now, you'll still be doing more than 80 to 90% of the other local businesses in your town are doing, who won't be doing any video at all, even still. So it's still a massive opportunity.
So you've just mentioned that there's more videos nowadays, which is true. You've mentioned that the way you do videos now is more unique than how you started 7-8 years ago. Good. So what would you say if I gave you someone who made really average videos, and you know what I'm talking about. So if I gave you someone who made really average videos, what are 3 things you would make them do to improve their videos?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'd say to them, well done, because you're making videos, and that's the hardest part, is to start. So you started, now's the easy bit, we can just make them better. So 3 things that I would concentrate on would be, first of all, the overall structure. The overall structure of your video. Let's break that apart, because I'm assuming that this person who's making quite basic, simple videos is probably setting up their camera and talking for a couple of minutes and then turning it off, which is a fine place to start. Do that rather than nothing. What I would instead do is say we're going to break your video down into 3 parts. So we're going to give it a structure. So I'm going to tick off 2 of your 3 points kind of within this one. So first of all, I want your videos to be more succinct. They're probably going on for too long at the minute. We want to drag them back so they're 30 to 90 seconds at the very most. And people find brevity very challenging. When we're on camera and we're feeling a little bit nervous, we tend to waffle, and before we know it, we've been talking for several minutes. So it's quite a skill to actually cut that down and convey the information that you want to share in a short amount of time. So I'm going to give you a structure, and you're going to follow that structure. And that structure is going to be 3 parts. It's going to be opening line, key insights, summary. Now the opening line, this is the second part, is called the hook. And that is the part that is going to engage your viewers in your video. So number 1, we're going to use a 3-part structure. Number 2, you're going to have an engaging hook at the start of your video. Now it's commonly thought that you have around 3 seconds to try and convince a social media scroller to stay on your video instead of scrolling past it. So the first 3 seconds of your video are of paramount importance. And so because of that, the first line is really important. And the first line basically has to ignite curiosity in your viewer's brain that makes them go, I need to find out what the rest of this is about. So we're going to have a really strong hook at the start of your video. We're going to make sure your video doesn't go on for too long by using a 3-part structure to help you plan your video and keep it short. And then the third point that we're going to use to make your video better and better quality is, if we want it to be really good, I want to introduce an element of movement. I want something to be happening on the camera. And that could be the camera moving. So either you're going to walk down the street and I'm going to follow you with it, and you're going to walk and talk at the same time. Or it could be stuff popping up on the screen. It might be that I'm going to have images or B-roll or captions appearing here and there, but I want something to be happening. The person could be moving, the camera could be jumping in and out, zooming, panning, or something could be popping up. But the more that's happening, the more successful we're going to be in retaining the interest of the viewer. So brevity, strong hook, and movement.
Why does movement matter so much?
Because you can have a really interesting video. I can be delivering the best advice that really resonates with my target audience, that they really appreciate and will benefit from. However, video is still a visual medium. So whilst you can make a really engaging video with a basic video of me talking to camera, that can be successful, and that's a good starting point. But if you want to go for the gold star standard, then you want to engage the brain and the eyes so that they like what they hear and they also like what they see.
Did you, and I'll be honest with you, Toby, I think I've just realized this, obviously from our chat. Someone very kindly mentioned it to me either off camera, one of the podcasts, somewhere, just recently. I found it really interesting. I'm looking out for it because it's got to do with movement. Mr. Beast.
Yes.
I think it was him who said that he tries to make his videos in such a way that every 3 seconds something happens.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And I'm looking for it, and I'm starting to sit. I'm counting on my hand like 1, 2, 3. Something happens. Normally something does happen. That's a really interesting point you're making because it does engage the brain.
That's right. And yeah, Mr. Beast is the biggest YouTuber in the world, and in some ways is kind of responsible for this style of video. And you're absolutely right. I think maybe it's 3 to 5 seconds in his videos, something happens. That might just be cutting to another camera. It might be some kind of action. It might be some words popping up on the screen, but something is constantly happening because what you're battling with on social media is the viewer's urge to scroll. And especially if your video goes beyond the 60-second mark, you are fighting an uphill battle to keep that viewer on your video. So something has to happen.
You've also mentioned structure, and you called structure and the hooks.
Yeah.
We'll get to the hooks in a moment because I've got some questions about that. But let's look at the structure because obviously part of the structure is the hooks.
Yeah.
But the second and third, you've said there's the middle and there's the end.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the middle and the end.
Okay. So the middle part is what I call the insights. So my structure I call it the HIS structure, HIS. So we've got the hook, then insights is the middle bit, and that's the main body of the video. When I say main body of the video, it's still not very long because we want this to be 30 to 90 seconds, but these are the main things that you want your viewer to take away. What do you want them to learn from this video? What do you want them to go away having taken from you? So I would encourage someone to write 1 or 2 bullet points before they start filming. These are the main things that I want the viewer to learn from me. No more than that though. If it's more than 1 or 2 things, then split it into 2 videos. So then you go through your couple of things that you want to talk about, you want to guide and educate your viewer about, and then the S is the summary. So a neat way of finishing is to just summarise what you've already said. So, and in conclusion, if you want to do X, then do this. And then you might, and I always encourage people to be cautious with this, you might want to include a call to action at the end. A call to action is when you are asking your viewer to do something, and the big mistake that a lot of businesses fall into is that call to action being a big, clunky sales pitch. And I say, you're getting it wrong if, especially as an estate agent, you ever find yourself doing this to a camera, making the phone sign with your fingers, going, and if you want to sell your house, then give us a call. People get turned off by sales pitches. People don't like feeling sold to. You should think of your marketing videos as a breadcrumb trail that you're laying for your customers to follow to your door. And with a breadcrumb trail, 2 things will cause your customer to stop following your trail. One is if the trail stops, so that's the important consistency. The other is if they start to become wary or suspicious of where this trail is leading them. So if they start to think, hang on, this person's not out to help me, they just want my business, they just want to sell me something, they want my money, then again, they will stop following your trail. So don't put a clunky salesy pitch at the end of your videos. But a call to action that might be acceptable at the end of your video is maybe when you offer more value. So you might say something like, if you're interested in hearing more about this, then we've written a guide, or we've got a checklist, or, leave a comment or send us a message and we'll send you that PDF document. So offer them more value to get in contact with you. So insights and summary.
So you've given me a bad example of a summary, which was call us to sell your house, and you've given me a good example of how a summary could be like, which is message us to get a guide, or here's a checklist, or check this video because we've talked about this thing which also relates to this. Very interesting. Is there anything else that people should know about the summary or the insights and the summary? Because we're going to go into hooks in a second.
Yeah, I think all I would say on those, and is keeping it simple. It's make your video structure as simple as possible so that, and I deal with a lot of people who raise a lot of obstacles that they say prevent them from getting on camera, from creating regular content. And so for me, it's a question of making it as simple as possible. So keep it to those 3 sections. Don't go off on tangents. Be as succinct and brief as possible. Say what needs to be said and then stop the video. Don't waffle. And I guess the last thing that I would say on that is, again, to make it more efficient and achievable for the person making the video, film in those 3 segments. Don't try and do the whole video in one go, because that's a much harder task, trying to remember everything that you want to say in those 3 sections and film it in one go. You'll end up doing 500 takes. If you set the camera running, leave it running, and then you come and sit down with your notes and you remind it, you go, okay, oh yeah, that's my hook. It's just 1 sentence. I'm going to memorise my hook word for word. So you put your sheet down, you go, right, I'm going to deliver that 1 line now. Here's my hook. Do you want to know the 3 things that will help your property to sell quicker? Right, there's my hook. Then you pick up your notes again and you look at your bullet points. Oh yeah, those are the 2 insights that I want to deliver. Right, okay. Think, how am I going to say that? The camera's still running. Right, put down my piece of paper and go, right. So first of all, you want to do X. Secondly, you want to make sure that you've tidied, whatever it might be. And then you leave the camera running, you then pick up your notes, you go, okay, yeah, oh yeah, I want to sign off by saying that I've got a guide that they can get, okay. And then you deliver the last bit. So you've broken it up into 3 chunks. And if you fluff your lines, you only have to go back to the beginning of that section, not the whole video. So you're doing it section by section to make it bite-sized and more efficient and achievable. And filming the videos in that way is far quicker. And all you've got to then do in the edit is cut out the silences when you're looking at your notes and stitch it together, which is a very easy edit. And people will find that that is a much more manageable way of filming videos than trying to go, right, I've got all of these notes, that's what I'm saying in the whole video, try and remember the whole lot, okay, and 3, 2, 1, and try and do the whole thing. So make it manageable and bite-sized.
And just because you mentioned movement, question there, it sounds like if I'm sat down, I'm checking my notes and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to film the insights bit. Okay, I'm going to now say my insights bit. I like that, cool. I'm going to go to the summary. I'm going to do summary a couple of times. Where does movement play into all of this?
There's so many different ways you could do it. And there's no one rule. But a few things you could do is, if you're filming it in those 3 chunks, you could do those 3 chunks in different places. You can say, right, I'm going to deliver my first line here, and then for my second line, I want you to come over here and film me over by the photocopier. And then my third line, I'm going to go and stand outside. So just, different locations, different scenes almost. But then you could make it far simpler than that. You could just say, right, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here, I'm going to record the whole video here, because that's more efficient, more time efficient. And what I'm going to do is my first line, I'm going to deliver like normal. Then the insights bit, and also to kind of cover up the fact that I've recorded this in 2 segments, what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in for the second clip. I'm going to crop my head and shoulders. First clip's going to be zoomed out, second clip's going to be zoomed in on my head and shoulders. Third clip, I'm going to zoom back out again. So the movement is being done by the camera there, cutting in and out. Or you could do it differently. You could say, right, the whole video is going to be a walking, talking video. We're going to walk around town. I'm going to walk around Bath. You're going to follow me. I'm just going to chat to the camera. And then by virtue of the fact that we're moving around, I'm going to film the hook in Green Street. I'm going to do the insights in Abbey Close. I'm going to do the summary in Milsom Street. So lots of different ways to introduce movement.
Looking finally at hooks.
Yeah.
So before we go into obviously all the theory behind the hooks and what you could do, what you shouldn't do, could you give me an example of a bad hook and then give me an example of a good hook?
So, well, the first example I'll give you is no hook at all, because that's the main mistake that people make. So the biggest mistake that I see time and time again at the start of videos is the first line being the person on camera introducing themselves, saying, "Hello, I'm Toby Martin, I'm the managing director here at Toby Martin Property," and that's your 5 seconds gone. Does the viewer need to know that? Is the viewer interested in who you are? Are they interested in what your job title is or what your business is? No, they're not. Your customers, this is a point that I make, and it sometimes disheartens business owners and estate agents. Your customer doesn't care about you. They don't care about your business. They don't care about who you are. What they care most about is the home that they need to sell, is the property that they need to try and rent out, the tenant trying to find out, how can I get to the front of the queue and secure this property? They care about the things that are most important to themselves. So that is what you need to lead with. So you can skip the introduction. They don't need to know who you are. And anyway, your video is going to be on a social media page that is plastered with your company's name and branding at the top and all around, so you don't need to do the whole introduction. The other thing that I see people do quite a lot at the start of their videos, and I think this comes out of the nerves of being on camera and people almost trying to deal with that live on camera, is they start their video by saying, "I just thought I'd film a quick video. I just thought I'd film a quick video about ... And the number of times I see videos where the opening line is that they're telling us that they're filming a video, and we don't need them to tell us that they're filming a video because we can see the video. So you don't need to start with any of that kind of introductory waffle. It's waffle is what it is. So the worst kind of hook is no hook at all. So what the hook should be, good hook would be, and again I'll kind of default to the world of property, would be, first of all, let me talk you through the process. I'm thinking, who is my customer? Who do I want to watch this? Who do I want to be talking to? And then I'm thinking, what are they worried about? What are they frightened of? What are their pain points? What problems do they want me to solve? Or would be grateful if I solved? So I'm thinking, right, my target customer is a home seller in Bath, and all of the anxieties and the uncertainties that come around selling your home, it is a treasure trove of marketing opportunities. So an example of a good hook might be, do you want to know 3 things that will help you to secure the best price for your home? So a frequent concern of home sellers is, am I going to get the best price for my home? Am I going to be able to get someone to buy it for what it's worth? That's something that a lot of people worry about when they put their property on the market. I, with my hook, am suggesting that if they continue to watch the rest of the video, I will share 3 things with them that will make a tangible difference to how much money they'll get for their home if they sell it. So I'm promising value if they continue to watch the video. So here's a problem. If you carry on watching, I'll solve it for you.
Tell me, what were the 3 things you said we need to look at before we create that good hook you just explained?
Okay, so who is my audience, or who is my customer? What are they worried about, or what problem do they have? And how can I solve it, I guess? But those first 2 things are the main ones. You're kind of opening a question. You're saying, right, here's a problem. Now I'm going to solve it for you. So let's think of another one. I'll do one kind of the world of lettings, and again, like, you know, obviously in the world of property, there's so many marketing opportunities. You've kind of got four main customer types. You've got buyers and sellers, and tenants and landlords. And you know, estate agents will say to me, yes, but tenants don't pay our fees, and buyers don't pay our fees. Our customers are sellers and landlords. But you can still do a great bit of marketing by showing to your landlords, showing to your sellers that you know very well how to offer support and assistance to the people who will rent their homes and the people who will buy their homes. So one in the world of lettings might be looking at, you know, it's a really tough time to rent. There's not enough properties on the market, there's lots of people looking to move home, so a constant worry for someone moving home is, well, how do I actually secure a property? What do I do if there's 5 people wanting to rent a property? So again, I'm thinking, who is my customer and what are they worried about? So my customer is a tenant in this example, and they're worried about not being able to secure the right property because there's too many people trying to rent it. So the hook for that might be, do you want to know how to get to the front of the queue when you find the house of your dreams? So again, I'm saying to them, if you carry on watching this video, I will share with you the right advice to help be the prime applicant for that property. So identify the customer, their problem, and then phrase it in a way that suggests that this video will help you to, if not solve that problem, at least give you valuable advice in getting towards that solution.
I like the hooks you've just given to me. I think they're very interesting. Do you think when it comes to hooks and videos, should a person first look at the problem to then come up with the video solution, or should they instead look at, here's an idea of a video I have, now let me find who the customer is, who the people are that I'm trying to target, and then answer the question of what are the worries.
Yeah. Everything, and this is not just video, everything in the world of marketing begins with the customer. You have to know clearly, who is my customer, who am I dealing with, as specifically as possible. Because even in the examples I've given in the world of estate agency, it's probably not really clear enough to say, well, my customer is someone selling their home. Well, what kind of home are they selling? How old are they? What kind of demographic? What stage of life? Why are they selling their home? The more information you have about a customer, the more specific you can be in the marketing that you create, and the more chance you will have of your marketing striking a chord with the person watching it. So, you know, if I have a business that really specialises in sort of premium properties, really expensive properties, then I might frame my videos and therefore my hook slightly differently. I might be speaking to a slightly different problem, a slightly different challenge that the owner of that specific kind of property has. So everything begins with your customer and finding out more about them, finding out what makes them tick, what worries them, what keeps them up at night, what are they Googling at 3 a.m. And from that, you can then extrapolate your marketing strategy, your content strategy, your messaging, your positioning, and exactly what topics and themes and challenges and frustrations you're going to talk about in your content that is going to really resonate with that audience.
And the beginning of the question, not the beginning of the question, but the first thing you mentioned was a bad hook is no hook at all.
Yeah.
And you said about that, and then you also said people introducing themselves. So I guess the question I have now for you is, why do you think people get the hooks part so wrong? Why do you think people start the videos in such a bad way?
I think it's because it's lack of awareness and understanding of what works on social media, and that is, I think, something that comes with practice and learning, and also Now, I'm not saying that everybody, in order to be good at what you do, has to go and spend lots of time on social media. But if you do immerse yourself in it, if you do follow the right people, if you do watch what successful creators do, then you start to identify things within their videos that you can then bring over to your own. So curating your own Instagram feed, your own social media feed, to make sure that really good stuff is what you're watching day to day, you'll start to pick these things out. But someone who's just starting on day one, I wouldn't necessarily expect them to know that this is how your audience behaves, or this is how the algorithm works. So it's kind of really educating yourself.
And I guess it goes back to also what you said earlier about if you're starting out and you're seeing what the average or what the other competitors are doing, and you see, well, they don't do faceless, they don't do face videos, so I'm not doing face videos, and then you see, well, they don't post that often, so I don't have to worry about it. Or they are, what was the third thing? Consistency. I already mentioned that consistency. What was the third thing?
Consistency,
Face.
faces, and delivering valuable guidance and trust-building content.
Oh yeah, I guess so. If they are, every video is like sort of like them selling,
Yeah.
also like promoting. Oh, this is an award I've won. Who cares? I don't even know what that means. I guess if they see that that's the standard, then obviously they're gonna start the video.
Yeah.
In such a bad way. Yeah, very interesting. And obviously you're right. If you curate your social media and sort of like what you see, you then see what works.
Yeah.
And then you can try different things, which absolutely works.
Yeah.
Going on to a different topic, which we sort of like talked a bit about off camera. People being afraid of being on camera.
Yeah.
So I guess the question here is, when someone says to you, right, Toby, I like what you're doing. I don't want to be on camera. I'm afraid of being on camera. I don't want to be on camera.
Yeah.
What do you think people who say that are afraid of?
This is one of my favourite topics, because it's so rewarding to see the difference that you can make to somebody who feels that way. So when I've trained people to become more confident on camera, I've literally had people break down in tears at the prospect of being asked to go in front of a camera. So I begin from a place of understanding. I appreciate that a lot of people genuinely have a fear of being on camera, and that I can't take that lightly, so I have to respect that. And I think the reasons for it, there's multiple different reasons for it. So first of all, there's a biological reason for it. There's a kind of established psychological effect called the mere exposure effect, which comes out of a piece of research that shows that as humans, we tend to prefer things, this is going to sound quite obvious, but we tend to prefer things that are familiar to us. So if something is unfamiliar, then instinctively our brains go, yeah, I don't like it. Not because it's threatening or because it's dangerous, simply because it's unfamiliar. So instinctively we go, right, if something is familiar, then it's good. If something's unfamiliar, then it's bad. And that feeling of self-consciousness on camera, of thinking to yourself, I don't like the way I look on camera, or I don't like the way my voice comes out of the camera, is part of that is because we are unfamiliar with how we look on a video, how we sound on a video, because it's how the rest of the world sees us. We never get the opportunity to see ourselves as I'm looking at you now and as you're looking at me now. I might look at myself in the mirror, that's a reflection, it's back to front. It's not how you're seeing me now. I hear my own voice through my skull. It sounds different to how you're hearing me now. So my genuine voice and my genuine appearance is actually quite unfamiliar to me. So we see ourselves on camera and we hear ourselves on camera and we go, hang on, that's not what I sound like, that's not what I look like. And that disposition towards thinking unfamiliar means bad makes us go, I don't like that. So it's not because we are bad, it's because it's unfamiliar to us. So we're not yet used to it. So then you have to deal with the process of normalizing it and making it like a customary thing, which only comes with exposure and repetition and practice. So one of the reasons is simply biology and psychology of it. But there's other reasons why people don't like getting on camera as well. Part of it comes down to, well, I'm too busy. Part of it comes down to that they don't believe it's worth it. And so every time I'm asked to train a team to get them to be more confident on camera, I never begin with the camera. I begin with the why. Why should you be doing this? The business reasons why it's necessary to help grow the business, and also the personal reasons why you can get satisfaction out of learning a new skill. And so you have to cover off, you have to convince someone, you have to get buy-in from them so that they're mentally going, yeah, I understand, I might not be comfortable with it yet, but I understand the reasons why I'm being asked to make a video. A lot of people still see social media as a vanity project, as people kind of pretending to be influencers and play acting online. So you have to help them to see the business reasons, that this is actually genuinely going to fuel the growth of our business or our project or whatever it might be. So get them to buy into it. Once they've bought into it, then we move on to fear of the camera and confidence, and dealing with that unfamiliarity, and also the whole idea of how do you deal with anything that sits outside of your comfort zone. So by this point, we've dealt with the buy-in. So by this point, everyone is going, okay, I get it, I understand why I should be doing it, that's been explained to me, but it's still uncomfortable, it's still outside of my comfort zone. So then we look at the nature of comfort zones. And there's a great diagram online, I didn't come up with it, if you Google comfort zones, you'll find it. But it's so true, and it illustrates the comfort zone as being the centre of a bullseye. So you've got comfort zone in the middle. And when we're within our comfort zone, obviously we feel content and we don't feel challenged. And outside the comfort zone, the next ring outside the comfort zone is called the fear zone. And that's where if things lie inside the fear zone, like appearing on camera, then we become affected by other people's opinions, we find excuses not to do it, and we feel nervous about doing it. But then the next ring outside of that is called the learning zone. And that's where we acquire new skills, where we grow confidence, we expand our comfort zone. And the idea is that you need to work your way through one zone to get to the next. So if something sits in your fear zone, you can only get to the learning zone by persisting and working at that thing and doing it until you come out the other side and you break into the learning zone. And so that is only achieved by practice, by learning, by repetition, by throwing yourself into something, by shaking off your inhibitions, but in the knowledge that that won't stay in your fear zone forever. You will keep growing and growing and growing until you arrive in the learning zone and it becomes a new skill.
So does confidence start before being on camera, or because you've started being on camera?
Because you've started being on camera. You'll never be ready. You have to start before you're ready. Otherwise, you just keep on putting it off.
So let's look back at, you've given me the theory. I understand what happens in the comfort zone. I understand what happens in the fear zone. I understand why that's there. And I understand that once I go and penetrate through the fear zone and reach that sweet spot of new skills, learning new skills, and then expanding my comfort zone to a new level so that the ceiling has now become the floor. How do you actually build the confidence? Because you can tell me the theory, I can say, Toby, that sounds great. You know what, I'm with you. Put the camera in front of me and I'll be like, right.
Okay, so a couple of practical things. Number one, film a daily diary. So every day, make it routine. It's not for sharing, it's just for you. No one else is going to see it. You have a dedicated time of the day. It might be last thing before you go to bed, first thing before you eat your breakfast, when you get out of bed, whenever. You're going to film a 30-second video. And it doesn't matter what you talk about. We're not thinking about production values. It can be a rubbishy little video, but you are speaking to the camera every single day. And if you do that every single day, there is no way in hell that you will feel the same about your 100th video and your first video. You are normalizing the act of picking up your phone and filming yourself. And ideally, you watch it back every time as well. Because we're looking to make these things that feel uncomfortable, these things that make us feel like we're wearing shoes on our wrong feet. But they only feel that way because we don't do them. So you repeat it every single day, and it's like building a muscle memory. Over time, it becomes familiar, it becomes normal. It's just a daily habit. It's just like looking in the mirror and brushing your teeth. It's something that you do every day, and you repeat that. And if it still feels uncomfortable, then you do it the next day. And if it still feels uncomfortable after a month, then you keep doing it. And you keep doing it until it's just a daily habit. So that's one thing, daily video diary. Then the second thing is something that is a real challenge, and I have a bit of fun with this because, so that's a kind of a habit to do every day, the video diary. Let's say that you've done that and you've now mustered the courage, you're going to film your first video intended for social media, you've gone and shut yourself in the broom cupboard so no one can see you, you've set up your phone on a tripod or you've balanced it against a pile of books, and suddenly you're about to hit record and you suddenly feel really wooden, you barely know like what to do with your hands, you don't really know like how do I normally talk, suddenly you feel self-conscious and uncomfortable. That's entirely normal. What you need to do in that moment is you need to break the ice. And the best way to do that, which people find really difficult, especially in a business setting, is you need to be stupid. You need to be silly. You need to embrace your juvenile side. You need to do things like shout at the top of your voice, or sing. Pick a song. Pick a song that you can sing really loudly and sing a line of it. Talk in a stupid voice. I do this before I start filming. For some reason, I always pick Mr. Bean. I can't start talking like that, and it's just really stupid. Do it loudly. Look something up on the internet. If you can't think what to say, look up something and just read it really loudly. March around the room, dance, whatever it might be. Whatever it might be, do star jumps. What you're doing, first of all, you're getting yourself going, so you're getting a bit of adrenaline going. But secondly, you're doing something that is more stupid than what you're about to do. So coming back to that diagram of the comfort zones, you're doing something that is further outside of your comfort zone than speaking to camera. You're doing something sillier, more stupid, more ridiculous. So that when you then bring it back, just the simple skill of speaking, albeit to a camera, you don't feel so stupid anymore. You're quite relieved that you're not doing what you were doing a moment ago. So it sounds really silly, and it doesn't sound particularly scientific or anything, but it works. You just act like a clown for a couple of minutes, and when you just have to talk normally again, you don't feel so stupid anymore.
It makes sense. You sort of like short circuit the whole brain into thinking, right, I've already done the most embarrassing thing that maybe I could have done, then this feels like a cakewalk.
Yeah, and the thing that most people say when they stand in front of the camera is, I feel stupid. But suddenly you're going, hang on, no, that was stupid. This isn't stupid anymore.
So that makes sense, and I think there's some really good advice there. Before I move on to the next question, tell me this. I don't even know if you have an answer for this, but it would help me a lot. If I look at convincing people, hey, would you like to do a podcast with me? And they say, well, the camera's not for me. Or if I go to my place of work and I say to someone, hey, help me do a video, it's gonna record 2 people being on camera, and I think you'd be good for it because X, Y, and Z. I don't have the... I mean, I could put in like 10 minutes to say, well, it would be great because you get to learn about this skill. Yeah, it's going to be a bit shit at the beginning, but you know, you're going to get there. It'll be so good, and then you can use it later on in your life and like stuff like that. But realistically, they're still going to say no to me. But what you're doing is obviously, you're going there in a business setting, you've been paid to do this, you've been brought in for a reason, and they sort of get that as well, plus your explanation, which they both make sense. But in the example of how do I quickly convince, how do I convince someone when I don't have enough time?
Yeah. So, now, if there is a business setting, so if this is someone who will benefit from the exposure, either because they're building a personal profile or they're promoting a business, or it would help them to be more seen and more known, not even in business but in their local area, if there's any reason for that, then this is the buy-in section that I mentioned. So the case for that is, right, what are your customers doing? Or what are your local audience doing? So 82% of all internet traffic is people watching videos. So if you are trying to reach an audience, then that is what they are doing. They are spending time watching videos. And let's not forget the other statistic. So what you would say to them is, you would say, I'd like to tell you 2 stats. From real world research. Number 1, 70% of the customer's decision is made before they meet you, because they're doing so much research. Number 2, 82% of all internet traffic is people watching videos. So you join those 2 stats together. People are doing research online in order to make a decision about you before they meet you. And how are they doing it? They're watching videos. So if you want to reach an audience, if you want to become better known and more seen, then you need to be on camera. So that's the business case. That's the case for, right, if you have something that you want to promote, if you want to be more prominent, if you want to be better known, if you have something that you need to sell, whatever it might be, you're not going to come on camera and sell, but you need to be seen. You need people to get to know you. So that is the sort of the easy case for that. If it's more a social setting, then I think you have to rely on that kind of human instinct to want to learn and grow, and you have to lean into that kind of, when was the last time you learned a new skill? I know this might be uncomfortable, but you'll find it really rewarding. There's not quite such a strong case, but I think if it's someone who runs a local business, if it's someone who wants to grow either personally or in a business sense, then it's just really pointing to the evidence that says, look, this is what people are doing. People are spending their time online, researching, making decisions, forming opinions, making judgments, and if you're not involved in that, then you're leaving it to fate and chance, what they think of you. There's a kind of a brain exercise that I do when I'm making this buy-in case in my training, and I say to people, I want you to imagine a speed dating scenario. So you are sat in a cafe, and there's a line of tables down the middle of the room with chairs on either side, and you're sat on one side of the table, and as you look left and right, on the same side of the tables, all of the local business owners who compete with you are also waiting. And in a moment, what's going to happen is the door of the restaurant is going to open, and all of the local customers, all of the potential clients and customers are going to come in, and they're going to sit the other side of the table. And you're all going to get a minute to speak to each one of them. And what are you going to talk about? How are you going to say something that is going to make your speed date, or preferably all of them in the room, want to swap numbers with you at the end of the evening? Because one thing's for certain, if everybody says the same thing, if everybody talks about their services, their Google reviews, whatever it might be, if everyone has the same message or a similar message, or even if they're not there at all, then the customer's going to have a very hard time deciding who they want to pick. Now, the best case scenario in that exercise is that when the doors open and the customers come into the room, they look over at all these business owners sat waiting for a speed date, and they recognise you. They already know who you are. They already go, oh, that's the guy who I saw doing that video about that thing. That was really good. That really helped me. So they already know you, they already trust you, they already like you. So that's kind of the route that I go down in getting the business buy-in. Oh, and one last one on that is also, again, I know it's business focus, but one of the objections that I always get, I always try and tick off all of the objections, and one of the objections is, it's not my job. I didn't become a estate agent, or you could just as easily say, I didn't become a butcher or a cafe owner or whatever it might be, to make TikTok videos or Instagram videos. It's not my job. And my response to that is always, well, it is. It is your job. Because when you became a business owner or a manager, or when you took a job that involved serving a customer, you made a commitment to serve that customer as best you can. And so what I'm showing you, what all the data shows you, what all the consumer research shows you, is this is how customers behave. This is what they like to consume online, this is what they look for. And if you're not meeting the customer where they are, then you're not doing your service to the customer. If you're sitting there going, right, well, I hear what you're saying, and I understand that that's what they want, but I don't like it. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to wait for the customer to come and talk to me how I want to do it. Then you're not promoting your business and you're not serving the customer as best you could. So your duty as a business owner, as an employee in a customer-facing role, is to cater to the customer's needs, and this is what they want.
And if you're not going to do it, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I think the personal branding, I think it hit me a year ago. I was watching a video, and the video was sort of like saying and explaining how personal branding is starting and has started to become such a big thing. And if you look at Mark Zuckerberg, yeah. If you look at him, and you can clearly see that he wasn't doing videos. He wasn't doing much media before, say, 2019. I'm just gonna give a random year. But now, he's all over. He's doing podcasts. He's doing more videos by himself. He's more on camera than he ever was. And it's sort of like the video was sort of like explaining, well, if he's doing that and he's already a multi-billionaire, running these big businesses, then why do you think you shouldn't? Or what makes you think that you are allowed to skip this whole thing when you're not even in the top 10% of say world businesses?
So Mark Zuckerberg has more followers than his company. Tim Cook has more followers than Apple. Richard Branson has more followers than Virgin. Elon Musk has more followers than Tesla. There's a pattern here. People want to connect with people. There's a little game that I like to play to illustrate this point, which I came across this quite fun statistic about the UK singles chart. And so we're about halfway through our decade. We're just over halfway through the decade now, the 2020s. And if you go back to the 1980s and you look at the halfway point in the decade, then you look at the song or the artist that have been number one in the singles chart for the most amount of weeks during the decade, by that halfway point. Then in the 1980s, by the halfway point, there have been 141 weeks of the decade where the number one single had been held by a band, not a solo artist. So then fast forward to the 1990s. At the same point, 141 weeks. The number one single held by a band, not a solo artist. So would you like to guess, so far this decade, how many weeks of the decade has the number one single been held by a band, not a solo artist?
Today. Yeah. Okay, how many weeks?
Yeah.
For a band?
Yeah.
Well, I know that Taylor Swift has, with her tours, she's the first artist who's made billions. So, going off of that, I guess there wouldn't be, like, how many weeks in the decade?
Yeah, so 80s was 146, 90s 141.
I'm gonna go, 146. Okay, I'm gonna go in the middle, say 70.
Okay.
Just so I can go now. But that was...
So the answer is 3. And one of those was a re-release of a single by the Beatles. And then people are like, why am I talking about the singles chart? It just demonstrates that we live in an age where our society is captivated by individuals and personalities. Taylor Swift is the most brilliant example because the way that she promotes herself is, her fans on social media, they feel like they have a real connection with her. They get insights into her life, or at least they feel like they do. They see behind the scenes footage. She is great at sort of releasing Easter eggs that are just purely for her fans. They feel like a part of her world. And so how does that connect to marketing? Well, it connects to marketing because it is a demonstration that we want people. We want to connect to people. You know, Tim Cook, Apple, Richard Branson, Virgin, all of that. These days we distrust brands slightly and big corporations. We distrust them. We trust individuals and personalities. So again, it comes back to the reason why you need to get on camera, because that's what the customer wants.
We care about people. We put more value on them than we put on brands. We care about, you say, we care about human interaction and connectivity. Yet, when it comes to creating the videos, people forget about what makes them human. So the question I have for you is, why is it that people strip out the personality, their own personality, that often is the one thing that would help them boost their videos and engagement?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it comes down to a couple of things. First of all, there's a confidence element in that. I think that some people will still think, if I show my true self to the world, then I'll be trolled, or people will say mean things about me, whatever it might be. So we put on this professional veneer, and that makes us feel safer. If I am putting a different version of myself out there online, then if people attack me, it won't feel so personal, because it's not really me. To which I say, when I first started making videos, I felt deeply insecure about it. I didn't really like how I looked, I didn't really like how I sounded, but nobody cared. Nobody cared about that. And I think there is maybe a gender thing here, because I think that women probably women will have a harder time with it from trolls, and probably receive more personal comments than men, generally speaking. So me, in my privileged position, I have to acknowledge that. But even now, I've spoken to a lot of professionals who I've persuaded to put themselves out there on camera, and by and large the feedback I get is nobody does care. Nobody cares if I've got an accent, or nobody cares. And someone once said to me, I don't want to get on camera because I've got a really broad Essex accent. And I said to her, if I showed you a video of somebody talking really good sense, really interesting material, but they had a broad Yorkshire accent, would you think any less of them? She's like, of course not. I was like, well, why do you think that about yourself then? So we get illogical when it comes to ourselves. We think people will scrutinise us more than they actually do. So there's confidence. But I think the other reason is why we lose our personalities a bit on camera is because when it's done in a business context, we feel that suddenly we have to put on a bit of a newsreader personality. We have to be serious because our work is serious, so we have to appear serious to be taken seriously. So that then means that a lot of people, you'll see them on camera and they'll have a bit of a dour expression because they're talking about serious stuff, especially in this line of work, especially with moving homes. There's a very serious business. The housing market is serious, mortgage rates are serious, and we are so desperate to be taken seriously that we confuse that with being boring. If we appear dull and bland, then that is the same as being taken seriously. And people confuse those two things. So one of the first tips that I give people is, when you're going to start filming, start every video with a smile. Hit record, put a smile on your face, count to 3 so that your smile isn't quite so massive, it starts to drop off a little bit because you don't want to look scary, and then start to talk. And if the first impression we want people to see is that you're friendly, approachable, likeable, and then that seems to help to loosen people up and think, actually, yeah, well, if I can smile on camera, I could maybe even make a little joke on camera, or I could, chuckle at something, or make this all a little bit more humorous and more interesting. So it's breaking down those professional boundaries that make us think that we're not allowed to be fun because it's linked to work.
Sounds really easy. So why do you think people resist it?
It's because they won't give themselves permission. They're scared. They're scared of doing that and being perceived as unprofessional or being not taken seriously. So we do what feels safe. And what feels safe is to be unremarkable and to be bland. That's safe because no one will say anything because no one will watch it. So we can tick the box and say, yeah, I've done my marketing. I've done my marketing video that I've been told I have to do. And I've made sure that it's not going to upset anybody. It's not going to be memorable to anybody. And so the hardest thing to do is to turn that on its head and go, right, I'm going to make something that stands out, that's the opposite of what everyone else is doing, that is going to be remarkable, memorable, and shareable. And I do understand that that is intimidating to do that. And you can only break down those barriers by just doing it. And then you realise that the risk is in not doing that. Because you risk wasting your time in not being seen. So what we perceive as a risk, which is standing out, sticking your head above the parapet, it feels like a risk, that is actually safety. That is actually, I'm going to do something that's going to make a difference to my business. And what feels safe is actually risky. Because in a business sense, you're going to waste your time, you're going to waste your money, you're going to waste your resources on doing something that's going to make no difference to your business.
And 2 points on that. I think from experience, just like you, I agree. I think you have to start doing it to get better at it, and you'll get that confidence. And the second thing, which I absolutely love what you said, is it's risky not doing it. Put your head above water, because that's actually safe. And what I hate about it, in general, is when people come to me and say, "Oh, you're too loud," or "Why? That's a bit cringe," or that's a bit weird. Why are you doing that? Or I wouldn't do that. Or why did you do that? Sometimes when people come to me and say that, I hate it, because it's sort of like I can't explain to you, I can't convince you of the value of what I'm doing, of the value that comes from the things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And you're not open-minded enough to see why that is.
When I first started doing this in my old business, for that business, I got a lot of pushback from the people who I worked with. And they said, look, this is cringeworthy. It's going to damage our brand. We've built our brand over many years. It's a trusted, recognised brand. You've just got to say one wrong thing on camera and you're going to break what we've built down. And so I know that there is a lot of objection from people who like to live in safety, who like to not be challenged or to challenge their market. And if you don't challenge your market, you won't disrupt that market, you won't break into new markets. So I think when people say that I find something cringeworthy or I find it worrying or that it's not going to hit the right notes for our customers or whatever, what they're actually saying is, this is out of my comfort zone. And again, if it's cringeworthy, then you just haven't done it enough. What you're saying is, I'm not used to this. It's new to me. And some people cope with change better than others. So back in my old business, I was changing how we did things. And some people didn't cope well with that. But yeah, I think I hate the phrase cringe, because what you're actually saying is that's normally somebody saying to you, you've done something that I wouldn't do myself. You've done something that I wouldn't be able to do myself, that I wouldn't have the nerve to do. But they frame it in a way that makes themselves feel better by telling you that you're not doing a good enough job.
Yeah, and if you're doubting yourself, then that sort of like that sentence from them makes you feel, oh, maybe I am.
Yeah.
That's the self-doubt. I hate it, and whenever I see people do that, I'm like, they do it to me, I'm like, well, off the list, bye-bye now. I won't see you ever again.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Cut out those vampires.
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned at, let's say, maybe like 45, 50 minutes ago, you mentioned about movement and how some movement should happen in the community. Number one. Number two, also, you've made a video on this, which I tried out, was a great video, and I've mentioned it a couple of times now to you, about filming in your community and how important that is.
Yeah.
Why is it important to film videos in the community?
A couple of reasons, although I'll caveat it by saying that it depends on the business. And so if you are a local business or an independent business or a community-focused business, then it becomes a lot more relevant. However, it can help any business, because the first reason is that filming in an environment like that, out and about, it just looks more interesting. If you're filming with a neutral background, with a white wall behind you, then it's not very interesting to look at. So if you're walking down the street, if there's, I mean, we're lucky, like here with Bath, you couldn't ask for a better landscape or backdrop to make your videos feel cinematic or important. So just by the nature of the background, the fact that people might be walking past or out of shot, or the fact that the trees are blowing and swaying, the fact that there's traffic moving past, again we talk about movement, so you're introducing new forms of movement into your video, more things going on and happening, more things to interest the eye. So even without being a local business, just by being in an outdoor setting, you're making your videos look more interesting, which will make people watch them for longer. However, my background is from a local independent business, and where that is the case, then filming in your community roots you in the community. You're creating an association in the mind of the viewer. So if they consistently see you walking through the streets of Bath and regularly in that setting, then you're creating that bond in the mind of, who knows, maybe a potential customer, that you are a local business, that you are based here. You're not just any estate agent, you're an estate agent who serves the people of Bath. And I think that's very powerful. But also, I think that with these kind of videos, we've talked about addressing frustrations and pain points and knowing your customer, knowing what they need help with, support with. There are lots of different kinds of videos that also speak to your audience. And one, when you're positioning yourself as an independent local business, is showing that you are part of the community, because that breeds positive associations with your business. So spotlighting local businesses, doing a quick video outside a new shop that's opened or a new business that's opened, even going and speaking to the owner, positioning yourself as someone who is deeply rooted and embedded in your local community and working hard to be part of that community and support other businesses and support local residents. So, you could just be filming your typical kind of content walking down the street, and that works on one level. But you could also be actually featuring the community and making it a part of your content, making that part of your strategy. So you're planting those seeds in your customers' minds, saying, well, actually these people are really part of the fabric of our community, and that's something that deserves praise. So a lot of people will prefer to work with a business that is community minded than one who could have been uprooted from anywhere in the country. So on many different levels it works, whether it's just for a more interesting backdrop, whether it is to create that association with your local town, or whether it's actually to highlight and spotlight other aspects of the community, to create those bonds and associations. It works on lots of levels.
And when you propose that movement idea with this example to the people you help through your consultancy and through your work, how do they react?
Very badly.
Because what you described to me,
yeah,
what you described to me sounds so simple,
yeah,
and comes with a lot of advantages and a lot of good things that can happen off the back of it. So why would they resist it?
Because it opens the lid on a whole new box of uncertainties and anxieties, which is filming in public and having people watch you and wonder what you're doing. Which I find hilarious, because especially, again, thinking about the industry that I work in, I say to all these estate agents, I say, so what you're worried about is you're going to go and stand in the street and people will look at you. And they're like, yeah. I say, you're an estate agent. You want people to look at you. That is one of your main ways of getting business, being looked at. So this is a good thing, isn't it? If you get to the point where people see you in the street and they're like, oh, there's Toby doing his property videos again, then that's a real win. That's becoming better known and recognised. So what I actually encourage them to do is I take it around with me, my training sessions. I designed on Canva, printed on Vistaprint, like an all-weather board, like the same material as a for sale board. And it says on there, you could change the wording, but mine says, what the hell am I doing? And then underneath that it says, hello, I'm a local property expert filming a market update about the housing market in Bath. If you'd like to chat to me about that, then feel free to interrupt me. It won't be a problem at all. Then I have a QR code at the bottom linking to my socials and a big picture of me so they can go, oh, that's him. And agents who I've worked with have done that. We cable tie it to the legs of the tripod so that people always walk past and they look at the camera and they see, what are you doing? And then they look at the board and then they've gone up and they've spoken with the person filming. And I know people who have booked in appointments and valuation appointments off the back of someone coming up to them in the street and saying, I've just seen that you work in property, we're looking to sell our home, can we talk to you about it? So this fear of being seen completely conflicts with the purpose of what we're all doing, which is to become better known and more widely recognised. So that's a fear that is easily explained away, and again, like everything else, only really overcome by go out and do it and get used to it.
That is an absolutely cool idea. And it sounds crazy, it sounds amazing. And what you just described sounds like you've got people who you've talked about this, you've told them how to do it, you've helped them do it, and they've got leads and consultations booked off the back of it.
Yeah.
So it works.
Yeah.
Where did that idea come from?
My brain. Do you know what? I think that, so I used to go out and film around Bath in my old agency days, and that still makes me feel nervous now. I get the anxiety around it. When I filmed that video that you saw of here's how to do it, I did it around Bath. That day I hadn't gone and filmed out and about for ages, and so from my point of view, it was right. Just do it. Don't think about it. Do it before you get a chance to think about it. So I set up my tripod, and the odd person looked at me, but again, no one really cares. And from when I did my filming out and about in Bath, and then making that leap from being a property person to now being a trainer and a marketer, you start to think slightly differently. And you start to think, okay, well actually, I did used to film out and about, and surely that comes with its own opportunities, because the more you work in marketing, the more you realise actually the primary goal of your marketing is to be seen by as many people as possible in your local market. So that's an obvious win, isn't it? If I'm out and about and everyone's staring at me, then how can I turn that to my advantage? So it was only really by doing it and then reconsidering that from a marketer's perspective, like, if people are looking at me, how can I turn that into leads? So it was getting out there and doing it.
And I love that you said you didn't allow yourself to overthink, you just went and did it. Because then often it's that part that people get stuck at, overthinking it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a really idea, and I'll ask you when I edit this to give me a picture of like how that looks like, because I'm imagining like a massive cardboard of your face.
It's about that big.
It must be, because you said big face, then a bunch of text, so it must be in a QR code. Like there's a lot of space.
Yeah. I'll send you a picture of it, and it really does work.
Great. And another question I have. You've mentioned to me that you like to replace the word marketing with the word growth. Why is that?
It's because, again, in the industry that I mainly operate in, as we've established already, marketing is not seen as an essential activity. It's seen as a tick box. So have I done my socials? Never mind what's on them. Just have I scheduled something? Have I got 5 minutes when I can find something to post on Facebook? Marketing is not prioritised in the estate agency industry by the majority of businesses. It's something that gets done if you've got time to do it. The number of estate agency websites that you go on that have not posted a new blog in the last 12 months, that have very intermittent social media feeds, let alone never mind the quality of what they're posting online, just getting time to do it. The commitment to marketing, and then the quality of the marketing, the creativity around the marketing is, as we've established, very average. So the reason why I suggest substituting those words is because if you said to a great many estate agency owners, do you devote, like you mentioned it earlier, do you devote 50% of your time to your marketing? Does that feel like a worthwhile investment in your time? Then a great many of them will say, absolutely not, don't have time for that. I've got other things to do, more important things to do. Phone calls that I've got to return, emails I've got to reply to. But if you then said to the same person, do you think it would be worth devoting more of your time to the growth of your business? You can't say no to that. You can't. But for some reason, we're so short-sighted in our industry that we can't make the connection. Marketing is seen by many in the industry as an expense. You spend money on Facebook adverts, you spend money on paying people to create stuff for you, and that's money that disappears. Good quality marketing is an investment, not an expense. You get a return on the time or the money that you spend on your marketing if it's done well. If it's not done well, then it is money down the drain because it doesn't do anything. But good quality marketing is not an expense, it's an investment. You make money back on what you do. So trying to help my potential customers understand the benefits of investing time or money in their marketing is the challenge for me. Because a great many of them associate marketing with lost time and lost money. So for me, it's trying to help to take the blinkers off their eyes and say, yes, but do you want to grow your business? Do you understand how to grow your business? Do you see that your marketing fuels the growth of your business? Marketing literally is any activity that fuels the growth of your business. It can be social media, but it doesn't have to be. It can be mail shots. It can be advertisements. It can be improving the quality of your service so that people go and recommend you. This is all marketing. So repositioning marketing as growth makes it slightly harder for the people who I want to work with to say to me, I don't believe in that stuff. Because that is what people say if you just talk to them about marketing. If you talk to them about, do you want your business to grow, then it's a different conversation.
So why is it that when money gets tight, they prefer to sacrifice marketing?
Because they're not doing it well. There's a real education gap in our industry. And I know this because I was subject to it as well. Because I worked in a business, we didn't have a dedicated marketer, we didn't have a marketing budget, and we did marketing in the gaps between other things. And then when I wanted to go off and invest more time and money in marketing, because I was discovering more and more myself, that was challenged. And so what we have is we have an industry where the majority of marketing is done by people who are not marketers. They don't know how marketing works. So when I left agency, I went off and I did a qualification in marketing. I did an MBA level qualification in marketing. I wanted to understand the science of marketing. I didn't just want to be good on social media. I wanted to understand how marketing, like with a capital M, works. And it's only by properly educating myself that you really see how much other people don't know. There is a great psychological principle called the Dunning-Kruger effect, which I love talking to people about because it applies more than we like to think. which is that these two researchers, Dunning and Kruger, did a big study, and their main conclusion was that the less we know about something, the more confident we are in our abilities to do that thing. Because we don't know enough to realise that we're bad at it. And that applies so well to marketing in real estate. Because you've got a lot of people who are not trained in marketing, they don't know how to market their companies well, but they're trying to do the marketing for their business. They don't know enough about marketing to know that they're not doing it very well.
It's an interesting psychological definition and I guess experiment, and I can see why that is true.
Yeah.
It's sort of like saying I don't like eating sushi. I've never tried it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
How do you know?
Yeah, and I'm a kind of I know it's easy to say, a lot of people say it, but I'm an avid lifelong learner, and I believe you should never stop learning. You should never stop trying to explore new subjects and push yourself and acquire new skills. Being open to the idea that you don't know everything, or that you don't know very much about a certain subject or topic, that there are gaps in your knowledge. If you're not open to the idea that you might need to know more about something, then it makes it very difficult for you to grow and learn as a person, which then obviously affects, if you're running a business, how you run that business. So I think one of the key traits in the most successful people are that they are self-critical and open and accepting of the idea that it's okay to not know very much about something. We're merely identifying what we need to learn more about, and that gives us direction for how to improve as people and as business people. So I think that Dunning-Kruger effect is really revealing, and we should all be looking for, well, what are the gaps in my knowledge? What are my weaknesses? What do I need to improve at? Sadly for me, in the world of estate agency, there's not much awareness of people's ability to become better marketers, and that's the big battle that I have day in day out.
And that's why you're doing what you're doing, right? That's why I think. I mean, if I haven't said it to you directly, I'll say it now, because the videos you put out, they helped us. They in the moment when Luke and I were filming, it was a great example of what we could be doing, and we did it, and the video looked really good in the end, and we appreciated it.
Good.
And
it's important that you've got to walk the walk, haven't you? You can't just, I can't just tell people, and this comes back to everything that I've been saying, I can't just put on my website, I'm great at making social media videos, and expect people to just believe that. The most effective form of marketing is showing, not telling. So I need to demonstrate that I'm good at making social media videos. And that comes back to the whole principle that has kind of run through this, that in your marketing, you're guiding, you're helping, you're providing demonstration of your own expertise, rather than just telling people that you're good at what you're doing, you're showing it.
And that is why I trust, and I think it's the same for you, and for anyone who's make content. I put a couple, at the very beginning, I put some content out on LinkedIn, trying to promote the podcast, and I remember it so well. For a number of months, I would get LinkedIn requests and messages from mostly Indians, who I've never met in my entire life, reaching out saying, I can help you promote your podcast. Okay, I'll sit down with you, show me what you have created, show me the content you have put out there that can work as a walk the talk, right? Example, so that I can see what you've done. And they can't produce it. So how am I going to trust you?
Yeah. And now you compare that against if that person had been in your LinkedIn feed for 12 months or 6 months, and you consistently seen the quality of their product, them explaining how they help people, how they do that differently to other podcast editors, and you had that steady drip feed of going, oh my God, they really know what they're talking about. I can see how they could help me actually. Then if you came to a point in time when you needed help editing your podcast, then they would be the obvious person to go to. But because they're just dropping into your DMs, and I was talking earlier about the difference between short form marketing and long form marketing. They cut straight to the short form marketing. They go straight to the sales pitch. And of course, it doesn't work because there's no trust, there's no familiarity. If they built both of those things over time, they would have had a much better chance.
And that goes to show, if that's how you're thinking about doing a sale, then that's how you're gonna think about promoting my podcast or my content.
Yeah.
And this doesn't work for me, so your pitch doesn't work for me, so how is that whatever you're gonna do work for others? Yeah, no trust.
Yeah.
Toby, on your website, I have seen that what you do is you teach others, you do courses, you teach others how they can do marketing through your course. You also take it to a very premium level where you say, I'm gonna do it for you, so you don't have to worry about it. And in the middle, you've got the coaching option.
Yeah.
So the coaching option costs around £500 because I looked at the prices. So I'm just gonna take that for as an example. Say right now I've just paid you £500. There's £500 in your account. You're happy, and the question I have for you is, what can you tell me that I can improve my videos so that I can show up better online?
Yeah. Okay. We've covered quite a lot of it, but there's definitely some more. So first of all, if you're paying me £500, I'd write you a marketing plan. I do that. So I tell people, right, these are the videos you're going to film this month. Make it easy for you. Just go and film these videos. These are your videos for the month. But then you're absolutely right, there's a coaching aspect to it as well. So once a month we would chat, I would look at what you've done, and I would very nicely pull it apart and tell you what you're doing well, and tell you how you can continue to improve. The most common areas for improvement we've definitely already covered. The brevity, the structure. I think that something that, I guess we have covered it, but probably one of the most common things that I have to politely pick people up on is, obviously, I have to be honest with them. They're paying me money. You're trying to be someone else. Your customers want you. You're putting on a persona. You need to break down those barriers. You need to relax a bit. You need to become more comfortable on camera. All of those exercises that I've given you, keep doing them, because at the moment you're trying to be somebody else. And that never translates well on camera. We can see it. We can see it's not a natural video. We need to be more natural. You need to be your true self. Authenticity is the word that's always used when we talk about this. You want to be your authentic self on camera, and at the moment I can see you being somebody else. So that's kind of one of the common things that I would pick up on, and then talk through the things that, right, you're obviously tensing up on camera, we need to do some work on that. Are you doing your daily video diary? What are you doing before you start filming? Let's talk through those kind of techniques to loosen up. So an awful lot of what people get from me is that kind of honesty, that if you show your video to your mum, your sister, your wife, they'll tell you it's brilliant. You do need someone to be more critical than that. And accountability as well, because the majority of people will have a great time filming their first 5 videos, and then they'll get disheartened that they haven't yet gone viral, they haven't yet sold a product off the back of it, and it will ebb away. They won't ever have a day when they go, right, that's it, I'm never filming another video, but the next week they'll only do 2, and then the week after that they'll only do 1, and then they'll stop. So you need someone to hold you accountable, to remind you that this is a form of marketing that does work over time. You're marketing yourself towards the people who haven't even realised that they're going to sell their home yet. They're going to make that decision in 3 months' time. And by the time they make that decision, we need you to be asserted as the obvious person for them to come and talk to. So that accountability and that motivation, inspiration to keep going, to realise that there is a long-term goal to this, and consistency is what lies underneath it all. So yeah, you get from me your monthly plan written, some honesty, some accountability, and some practical pointers as to, right, I can see that this is happening in your video, this is what we're going to do to sort it.
Okay, and because now you've got the money to buy an air fryer.
Yeah.
You've done 70% of the homework.
My kids can eat again.
Those chicken nuggets, you know. I say, Toby, I'm one of those people who likes to say, look, I know I'm shit. So what's something that people don't generally want to hear that you do need to tell them?
Okay.
In that coaching.
So first of all, you're not shit. You think you're shit, but you're not shit. I mean, if I'm talking to you directly here, Luca, then quite clearly you're extremely proficient on camera. But even if it wasn't you, the fact you are on camera, you've done the hardest thing. That the hardest thing is taking the plunge. It's a one-way journey. Nobody starts off good and gets bad. I've had rooms of people, and one of the things I do is I ask a room of people to rank themselves 1 to 10. How confident would you be if I asked you to film a video right now? We always get a smattering. A couple of people say 10, lots of 1s, 2s, 3s and 4s. Everyone who's rated themselves at an 8, 9 and 10, I say, right, put your hand up if you were ever a number 1. They all put their hands up, every single time. Nobody is born to be on camera. It is always earned, and it's something that they've worked at. I have not yet met anyone who rates themselves highly at how confident they are on camera who has not said to me, yeah, I began as a 1 or a 2 or a 3. Everyone has come from there. So it's a one-way journey. You start feeling like you're shit. You feel like you're shit. Very few people will look at your videos and go, yeah, they're bad, because they're not doing it themselves. They know that you're doing something that they can't do themselves. So you start feeling like you're not doing it well, but it's a one-way journey. You only get better. No one ever thinks to themselves, I'm getting worse at this, because you're working at that muscle memory, you're working on the familiarity of it, how comfortable it feels, and that only improves. So you need to keep doing it every day. And even if you're filming a video tomorrow, make sure you do your video diary every day, until one day you'll feel like you don't need it anymore.
And what's something you would tell them that they don't want to hear, but you would need to tell them? So generally they don't take it very well.
Okay. They don't generally take any of it very well, because they don't want to be doing it. But something that they don't want to hear is, to be honest, I've already said it, it's you need to film a video, you need to do it today, you need to do it tomorrow, and then you need to do it the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. That is the most basic requirement of all. And as far as any of the rest of it goes, yeah, they might not want to hear from me, look, your video's a bit dull. Your video's not going to get engagement because it's not interesting enough, or you're not being short, you're not being brief enough, you're talking too much, you're talking too long. And that's all feedback that I've had to deliver, but actually people are normally grateful for that, because people want to improve and they want to get better. So normally they're quite open to criticism because it's constructive and because I can tell them how to solve that. I would never give a criticism unless I could tell them how to solve it or improve it. So I guess that's maybe where I'm fortunate. People are reluctant to do this. They're reluctant to get on camera. But once they've taken the leap, they're very grateful for the support and for the solutions, which fortunately I can give them. So yeah, I think that the worst thing that I tell them that they don't want to hear is you need to keep doing it, even if you don't like it yet, because this will grow your business, so you can't stop.
Toby, I appreciate that a lot. Thank you so much.
An absolutely massive pleasure. I've loved every moment of it. Thank you.
We've covered a lot. Just before we wrap up, is there anything else that I should have asked you, or is there anything else that you wanted to mention that you haven't mentioned, or I haven't asked you?
We've covered a lot. I'll tell you something actually that is worth mentioning. which is AI. And we haven't spoken an awful lot about AI. Where people want to avoid doing something, AI is normally what they look to. And in this instance, there are AI tools that you can use to avoid getting on camera. There's websites like HeyGen, Synthesia. These are websites where you can build an AI avatar of yourself. Then you can give it a written script and train it in your voice, and it will turn that into a video of you speaking and saying that. And I know that for an awful lot of people that's very tempting. They think, well, I can cut out all the time it'll take me to get on camera. I can avoid the thing that I don't want to do, and I can just take this shortcut. And despite the fact that I'm a really frequent user of AI myself in other aspects of marketing and my work, I would really encourage people to resist that urge. Because maybe one day, but at this moment in time, there is no way that an AI video avatar of you can replicate your personality, your quirks, can be as charismatic as you, can make the same impression on your customers as you. At the moment, what you do is you put an AI version in front of yourself, and the message that gives your customer is the real person couldn't be bothered to show up. And that erodes trust, it doesn't build it.
And in a world where the AI content will get more and more popular, as in more and more common on the platforms, as you said earlier, people will want to see people.
In the age of AI, in this particular niche, the real opportunities lie in being more human than you have ever been before in your marketing. And that involves you showing up on camera with all of your human traits, with all of your bloopers and stumbles and fumbles and tripping over your words. It just makes you more human. And actually that builds connections far more now than it ever has done before.
Again, Toby, thank you.
Thank you.
As wrapping up, where can people find you? Would you like to mention your website, your Instagram?
Thank you very much. Unsurprisingly, you can find me all over the internet. All the social media feeds. My name is Toby Martin. Feel free to search for me. My website is tobymartinconsultancy.co.uk.
Toby, thank you again. And final thing, remember when you were a kid. Remember when you were a kid and you had a chocolate bar. Your mom would give you a chocolate bar, your dad would give you a chocolate bar, or you would go buy a chocolate bar. Remember that first bite you would take. For me, that first bite, I was always hoping that you would have more chocolate. I always wished for it. And then I would take second bite, same thing, not enough chocolate. Up until high school, one of my friends came up to me and said, "Hey, Luca, I like this chocolate bar. Would you like one? Because I think you really like it." I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure, fine. I have a chocolate bar." And she gave me the chocolate bar, and it was the best chocolate bar in my entire life. It's been my favorite since then. It was in high school. And I've got one for you here as well.
Oh my god. This is making my day.
It's gonna be your
You
favorite.
have no idea
chocolate
what
bar.
sweet tooth I have.
You came over earlier and you said as you're walking up here that you had the chocolate bar already. I was like, oh, perfect, you like chocolate.
Thank you so much. I'm going to savour every morsel of this.
Nice.
You'll
need a lot of water with it. There's not much chocolate in it.
Oh, thank you, Luca. Thank you for having me. I think you've built a great platform here, and the people you have on this show are genuinely fascinating. So keep it up, and you're building an audience, and the only way is upwards. So consistency, keep going, and I can't wait to see what you're doing next.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.